Hey, this is Jeff at Woodturning 411. I get asked all the time, what's the best tools, the best tool steel, the best grind, what's the best way to hold a piece, how much money do I have to spend on tooling or chucking or whatever, and the simple answer is there is no best. There is what works best for me, there's what works best for you, and the only way to find out what those bests are is to stand in front of the lathe with the tool, utilizing some specific grind that you can reproduce and getting some work done. You have to put the tools in your hand to see what works best for you. I'm seeing all over the internet, everybody's talking about this tool and this grind and that grind, and everybody's, not everybody, but a lot of people are claiming this and that is the best. There is no best. I've tried lots of different grinds. I particularly prefer a 50-degree modified fingernail, a hybrid fingernail. Somebody classified it as that, and I turned the bowl just now. Start to finish, I've got about 15 minutes worth of actual turning time. I use two different tools, my 5/8 bar M42 high-speed steel and my 1/2-inch bar M42 high-speed steel. I prefer this steel. It doesn't make it the best, it makes it what I prefer. I prefer the 50-degree grind, which is what I've got on both of these tools. The sharpening is exactly the same. The only difference between these two is I have a slight relief bevel on the back side of my smaller gouge. This is a tool that I prefer for almost everything. It's the size that I prefer. Again, it doesn't make it the best, it just makes it what I like. And the only time I changed anything was when I was finishing the last couple of inside cuts. This was the bar that I started with, turning ambrosia maple. It dulled me down and I was getting some chatter across the bottom. So all I did was take a dull bar off and replace it with a sharp bar. I sharpened my tool. I just have the luxury of putting a fresh bar in and go back to work. But that's it. This is what works for me. This is what I teach my students. I have my reasons, and I think they're good ones, but that doesn't make my way the best. It just makes it my way. As far as lathes and chucks, standard lathe, nothing fancy about it. Standard chuck, I'm using a worm screw to start the process because that's the way I was taught, that's the way I prefer, and holding it in a large set of jaws because that's the best way to hold something for this type of project. Now, as far as finishing off the bottom, since this is a round bottom calabash, I don't want a tenon, I don't want a recess, I don't want a foot. I want it to have a nice curve across the bottom. I've got a vacuum chuck, I've got coal jaws, various sizes. There's lots of fancy mechanical devices that I have spent money on that I could use to do this. To show you that you don't need that, I took my next bowl blank. This will be my next piece that I will turn, and I turned that into my chuck right there. I made a jam chuck where I literally jammed the piece that I just finished onto the chuck. This is my chuck in order to hold it long enough to turn away the bottom. I utilize my live center. I utilize the little stem that was left from the tenon process. I made sure I had a center point. You don't have to have a whole bunch of expensive fancy equipment to do a bunch of really cool turning. Now, if you've got the money in the shop space, spend as much as you feel like. That's great, but you don't have to. Okay. In this video, you're going to see me start to finish. I'll speed it up. It's not a project video. It's just a demonstration. But you'll get an idea that you can get an awful lot of work done with a standard grind, sharpened on a standard sharpening system. It's just a Wolverine system on a standard bench grinder. This was sharpened to 80 grit because it's my roughing gouge. This was sharpened to a much higher grit. I'm not going to talk about that because, again, this is my preference. 80 grit or above, it's fine. 80 grit is plenty. But don't get caught up in trying to find what's best based on somebody else's input. Well, if you have access to a turning club or friends in the area that have different tools or things that you can try, that's what I encourage people to do. Try some different things. Learn something that you're able to utilize and get consistent results with, and focus on actually learning to sharpen when you're working with these traditional turning tools. Sharpening is key. Grind, subjective. Holding device is completely subjective, and as I just showed you, you don't have to spend a lot of money in order to have a holding device. I'm simply using my next turning blade. So, all right, so let's go ahead and turn this bowl. It's going to be fun. something for you to think about. You don't have to spend a bunch of time. You don't have to spend a bunch of money, and you definitely don't have to have brand A, B, C, D, or X. That's not important. It's completely subjective. Focus on developing your skills. Most important, focus on sharpening. Wood turning is a really enjoyable process, pastime, hobby for some, profession for others, and I encourage you to just get out in the shop and turn something cool. My name's Jeff. This is Woodturning 411. We will be doing more videos just like this. If you've liked anything, click the like button, subscribe if you want. If you have any questions, comments, leave them here. Catch me on Facebook, Woodturning 411 on Facebook, website woodturning411.com, and you can either send us a message, you can send me an email. Happy to help. We're here for you. We're not selling products. That's why I'm not mentioning brand names. And I'm here to encourage good, safe, proper turning technique so that you can go out and turn something cool.